The second playable version is on PC test servers right now. So this video is all about what changes are there and how to test it out properly. As far as PC test servers goes, it's 100% free to download, free to play, free to test. So go out there and test it. Why not, huh? All that's required is a PC and space to actually download it. Sorry, PS3, PS4, and Xbox do not have test servers. All testing is done on PC. So please go out and test this very important game update, if you're able to. Links to all information, stats, matters, Revamp is in the description box below. Check it out. Please visit the links and read for yourself. And test. Once again, this video is all about what changes there are and how to test it out properly. That being said, all information is subject to change at any time on test server. This is the test after all. So anyways, let's begin. Now, first off, what changes are there on test server right now? Once again, all information is subject to change. Feel free at any time to pause this video and read along. Enjoy and test. Once again, you can read if you want to, or you can just, listen to me do it for you. But it's been a few days since they closed the test servers and opened it up. So what they're doing now is, and this might be a trend, they have the test servers open up for 3 days, people test it out, after that to make changes, wait a few days to actually do those changes, reopen it back up. So now we're on Revamp 1.1. Alright, so you guys said there was things you liked, you guys said the things that you didn't like, and the devs have actually gone into the game and made changes based on just that. And they've done some little bit of other changes too, but pretty much you guys got what you wanted finally. So this video is all about all the changes that have been made. If you want to like the full spec of what's going on, you need to go look at the old video. The link will be in the description below. Also, same thing again, I'd rather you guys just go to the forum and read all this yourself. That way you guys can actually go to the forum, you guys can give them some commentary on what you guys think of the changes. Even those that aren't playing the game, there's a section you guys can go to called the work in progress section for people who are not testing it out but want to give feedback and comment on stuff or suggestions. You guys can go there and do that. And the number one thing I want to say is, I'd rather you guys not comment or even watch this video. I'd rather you guys just go straight to their website, straight to the forums, and test. Or not just test, but comment on there where the devs are actually going to see it. And also, I'd rather you guys actually go on your PCs and test this game out. The more testers we get, the better this will be. As you can see, they're finally listening to people when they comment. So the more testers we get, the better. But without further ado, let's get started on the changes thus far. Hello again, welcome to the Test Revamp 1.1, now available for testing on the public test servers. This won't exactly be word for word, but what was the last one? Your feedback in testing the first playable version of the Test Revamp was very useful, and we want to thank everyone who participated again. A lot of feedback to the overall goal was positive, but we have some clear mistakes in the details of how we got there. In this version of Revamps, we focus on addressing those details, merging your feedback and our testing experiences together, and then figuring out how we can account for this feedback while still working towards our goals. In this case, the goals we were working towards haven't changed. We're just working on how we get there. We have not yet added additional power sets to this update, so only ice, mental, and electricity are testable. And your revamp testing characters are back right now where you left them, so you can directly see the changes impact you. We focus on a couple of key areas: ability cooldowns, power regeneration, the controller role, and general balance. Yes sir, yes sir, yes sir. Ability cooldown. Cooldowns are a powerful tool that we use to address pacing, power cost, effectiveness, and many other things related to how combat works at a fundamental level. In the first playable version of the revamp, we increased cooldowns so that we could increase the effectiveness of each individual ability, as well as increase the time between crowd control abilities. Again, this was so that we could make it so that you couldn't get broken out of or resist it as often. The idea here was to create consistency for you guys, so you know what to expect when you use a power. Which I guess they were trying to make it better than live in that sense. But at the same time, we had a really, really long cooldown, so it was like old P stuns and whatever you want, but extremely long cooldowns, or kind of what you have on live and fast cooldowns. You know, it's kind of like, you know, they tried to give us something, but we'd rather have it the other way. Anyway, in the second version of the revamp, based on your feedback, we decreased many of the previous increased cooldowns. We especially focused on the role-specific abilities that power sets rely on to perform their core jobs. For example, we lowered the cooldown of pool abilities for tanks from 12 seconds to 3 seconds. Nice. Because we felt that the pool change too drastically departed from the standard method of tanking. And because we agree with your feedback that cooldowns that last long decrease the pace of the game to an undesirable degree. So the summary is as follows. Decrease most cooldowns. Now, that means most of the cooldowns have been decreased. Most, not all. Like the core jobs. What does a troll do? A troll gives out power, may stun some ads, but that's about it. Like, you got your debuffs, and then you have your buffs, but the cores, those are the ones that really got the cooldown decreases. Everything else is kind of the same though. So we'll go into that later though. Power Regeneration. Thank God. Power Regeneration is a core component of the game that influences practically everything else. It really does. Oh God, it does. We listened to your feedback and decided that requiring 1/6 of your loadout to spam manage your power is not much fun as we thought. It's more of a chore, really. Yeah, it really was. So we removed the self-power over time from abilities, and we have given that Power Regen to everyone as a passive. This means we increase everybody's passive Power Regen and require nothing for it. It's important to note that we did like the attentiveness component of having to focus on your power. We noted that DPS is generally increased with the amount of power spent. Therefore, the more consistent the player is with their active power regen buff, the higher their DPS was. We liked that, but felt that it was too much of a chore to keep around, so we will search for other areas of skill to highlight. One of those areas will be in building your loadout. So, power summary. Removed power over time ability. Increased passive power regeneration to make up for ability removal. Pay attention to your loadouts and think about power consumption. I was so happy about that. I was more worried about how that was going to work out more than the cooldown thing. Because I knew they were going to do something with the power. Like, even in the first revamp, when they first put it on test, they even said in the update that was months before that they didn't have a system set up for power regeneration, and they will better inform us later once they actually have something that they can actually give and show us. So I knew it was coming, and I wasn't. It was pretty much what I expected. However, I also, well, actually, I can say this. I didn't also. I had no idea the cooldown thing was coming. They didn't tell us that. Matter of fact, with these updates, they're leaving a lot of stuff out that's actually important to us, but I guess they didn't think it's that important for us to know. So I'll cover it here. But anyway, back on this topic. I was so happy with this. You know, having to have one move in your loadout means that you might as well just have the 5 spaces, not really the 6. You got really just the 5. Being able to actually put anything in your loadout that you want, that's going to like really open it up for how you want to make your character. You can truly do whatever the hell you want now. So that's something I'm very happy about. And once again, we're back on the track of loadouts based on playstyle, not based on if you're this power, you must have this, or that, or this, or that, etc. So I'm kind of happy about that, but we'll get into that later, because cooldowns do come into the equation when doing stuff now. Remember, not everything has a decreased cooldown, only certain moves, so we'll get to that later. Now, as far as the changes to roles go, with the first revamp, I was pretty okay with Ice. Ice I was okay with, I didn't really have any problems. I thought that taking away the shields was kind of but at the same time, we had the Ice armor, so I was like, okay, fuck it, we're straight. It also kind of made it so that there was really only one loadout now for Ice tanks, but, you know, like, that's the only thing that I was found iffy, was there's only really one loadout now for Ice tanks. But, oh well. This update changes that, so now you can do a lot of different things, so I'm kind of happy on that. But I was actually happy with the way Ice was before. Now, when it came to electricity, for healing, there were a lot of things that I was just iffy on. I could have dealt with it, but I was iffy on it because some of the moves and some of the mechanics of just how electricity works, it was kind of like you're taking a lot more away than what you're giving it. And quite frankly, some of the cooldowns are leaving some of the powers just absolutely useless. So I'm glad to see certain changes with that. But the biggest problem I had in the game was with a role that I don't even play. Like, I do DPS, like, very, very, very seldom. I would never call myself a DPS, put it that way. I would call myself a tank, and I call myself a healer. I play those a lot. DPS, like, once in a blue moon. Troll is like once a lifetime. That's how much I troll. Like, as much as I don't do DPS, I do that more than I do troll. But even though I don't troll, when I saw those changes from the very first revamp, I was like, are you purposely trying to make people not want to troll? Like, I understand why they were doing it. They were trying to force the 2-2-2 system. That means 2 tanks, 2 trolls, 2 healers, 2 DPSs. Which I'm completely happy about, because, well, it forces people to actually have roles and gives back the need for roles. So the whole cooldown thing, I was kind of happy with that at first, because it actually forces you to actually need to have that in your group. And quite frankly, that's how the game was back in the day, so I'm happy with it going right back to that. It also meant that a lot of people were going to get exposed, because with the way the old system was in the first revamp, you either knew what you were doing or you didn't. And when you didn't, everybody in your group was going to know. So I was actually cool with that too, because a lot of people think they can troll when they really can't. Like, they really cannot. Hell, I know I can't troll, but I know that. So a lot of people are going to get exposed with that. But anyway, what really made me question things was troll changes were the most drastic changes of the whole entire update. And as far as needing to get back to the whole wanting trolls to be more useful or make them be more desirable for content, or people to say, hey, I need a troll, I want a troll, making people want to have this role in their group. The changes kind of did the opposite. So I'm really happy with these current changes. And by opposite, I don't mean just making people not want to have the role. I meant they were so drastic to the point where you would actually see less trolls in the game because nobody even wanted to take the time to be one. Now that's how drastic it was. Like, I don't know if you guys even saw the last video, but you know, even if you don't want to just look at that video, just go onto the forum and look at the first revamp. The changes were so drastic that I didn't see the troll community growing. I saw it decreasing. The more I read it, the more I thought it's going to decrease and decrease and decrease. But this time, they got it right. Some things are kind of but it's more of a, well, I kind of want you to change this and that, but I could live with it for now. There is so much to say about this part right here. This is the biggest change in the game. There's so much to say. I'm going to wait to the very end just to get through it. The control role. During this update, we also focused heavily on helping to more clearly define the control role through game mechanics. Because power consumption and regeneration is such a big component of the Rebalance update, the control role was necessarily entangled and we felt we could give more clarification. The control role has always been about three things. Three things. Three things. Three things. Power heal, controlling, debuffs. Controlling, crowd control, same thing. Controlling, whatever. Let's talk about power healing. Power management is something that we like the controls, well, the controller having access to, but something we also want everyone to pay attention to. It should be something that you work with the controller to manage. That was part of the reason we added the self-power over time ability, and we all know how that worked out. Yep, you guys let the devs know what you thought about that when you were actually on test, and they listened. This is why I want you guys to go out and test. They listen. And let's continue. That said, through the iteration process, we determined that the self-power over time ability should go, and it follows that 2 was a chore. And so too is the group power over time ability that controllers have been forced to dedicate a loadout slot to and spam. We have decided to make power over time from controllers passive as well for each controller when they are in controller role. This means that the controller with the highest vitalization will automatically give group power over time passively just by being in the group. This allows controllers to still be able to power heal strategically in a burst manner, but will not force them to maintain the chore of keeping power over time buffs up all the time. Controllers remain desirable for their now passive group power over time, but are free of that active duty, which gives the controller room to control. We determined that we like the controllers controlling things, so we increased the relative effectiveness of their crowd control abilities when in control role. This means that we've doubled the duration of each CC ability, crowd control ability, the controller has from 3 to 6 while in controller role. I imagine that is either a ratio or seconds. But yeah, whatever. We also made it so that normal CCs would no longer interrupt controller CCs. Basically, dominance decides whether CC is going to stick, except for tank pulls. Those just happen above others. Lastly, we have debuffs. We didn't really do anything to these yet, but we're keeping an eye on them. We want to test these changes out to see if we like them and feel like they add to the enjoyment of controllers. Please let us know what you think. Controller summary. Controllers are all about power healing, crowd control, aka controlling, and debuffs. Removed group power over time abilities. Controllers now grant passive power regeneration to players in their group, just by being in the group. AKA there is no button to hit. Power over time is automatic. You're in a group with a controller, you automatically get it. These do not stack, and the highest vitalization wins out. Duration of crowd control abilities in controller role are doubled from 3 to 6. Crowd control abilities now get overridden by other players based on dominance. Higher dominance means crowd control is less likely to be broken by other players. Tank pulls overwrite every other crowd control ability because they're tanks. Now that's something I'm happy about. Now, what can I say about this update as far as controllers? Like, I don't know how much I can actually say about it. I feel like my comments will be out of place because I'm not on test. I'm not testing out for trolls. I feel like it would be out of place. I also feel like this is kind of like a grab at stuff. Like, you're taking away a little bit from what a controller does, I feel. Controllers give power to the group over time, but I think you're making it a little bit too easy. I kind of want to say if you're going to do this type of change to controllers, do it for everything else too. Do it for a tank, do it for a healer. You know, I kind of, that's how I feel, actually. At the same time, I guess we have no more excuses not to keep a troll that can give power over time in the group anymore. There's like no more excuse now, right? It's like, if you got your stuff up and you're in the group, you stay now. I think you're making it a little bit too easy. But at the same time, I kind of want to see what you're doing with the controlling and the debuffs before I actually make a complete judgment over the whole thing. Like, you seem to be going towards the controlling side now, so if that's the case, I want to see really what you guys do with controlling before I make any real decisions. Then again, at the same time, I feel like I don't have a place in the whole argument at all, period, because I'm not on test server. Right, general balance. We also made some global adjustments to numbers overall based on your feedback. Now, these couple of changes are probably just for test server and will be fixed or maybe even modified when they hit live. We adjusted the difficulty of the easiest NPC. He or she should no longer be getting one shot on the regular. Captain Cruel. Iron Curtain. Block counter damage has been adjusted to match all other counter damage. Increased strength of field effects. Area of effect over time. Temporarily disabled the iconic tree. The iconic ability tree. Alright, so let's go back over that. Tank pulls override every other crowd control ability because they're tanks. That's something I'm happy about, because sometimes controls would freeze enemies and then the tank couldn't pull them anymore because they were stuck in place. So I'm kind of happy that a tank can break that now. Especially if a tank knows what he or she is doing. I guess the same could be said if the tank doesn't know what he's doing. You kind of want the troll having a little bit of say over it, though. But, like I said, I guess we're gonna have to see how that works out because it can go either way. Don't get me wrong, I really do feel like I don't have any place to talk on this issue because, one, I'm not a troll, and second, I'm not on test server. So there it goes right there. I feel that if you're not on test server, your opinion doesn't matter, quite frankly. That's how serious this testing needs to be and how many people need to be testing it. I also feel that if you're not in that role, it doesn't really affect you. But just reading this, with power over time being an automatic just because a controller is in the group. While I know a lot of people are going to like that, to me, it really feels dumbed down. Like you're dumbing down the role. I mean, power over time used to be a way of telling who was mediocre, who was bad, who was great, who was good, and who was amazing or excellent at being a controller. And yeah, it was all based around just power over time. That was it. So I want to kind of see where this goes a little bit, because it's like you guys seem to be focusing on controlling. So are you adding something else to controlling, or is this it? Because this by itself, I am not really too. I know a lot of people are going to be happy about that, but I'm like, I'm just kind of like, if you're going to dumb down this, actually, I guess I don't want that to happen to the other powers. I take that back. Earlier I said, let's see that happen to healer, I see that happen to tank, then if you're going to do that automatic stuff, I guess I don't want that happening to them. But it kind of seems like this is now the easiest role in the game to play. Just join the group and that's it. That's all you have to do. You don't have to do shit else. That's how it seems. That's how it's reading. Now, I have talked from people on the actual test forums. I've read the test forums, and I read through and see people who are just commenting and not testing, and people who are actually testing and commenting, and also people who are actually testing the correct way and giving back feedback. But I've also talked to people who are actually on the test forum, so, And what I've seen is this. When I try to look at it from live to test, which I can, for this one argument, this is the only time I can actually compare it to, for this whole argument. It's not that different. It's not that different from what's on live right now, currently. Not that different. I know some people are like, what do you mean it's not that different? Auto pot is on test. There's no auto pot in game. There's a pot move on live, and there's no pot move on test. So what are you talking about? Like, yeah, it's if you think about it, it's exactly the same. Let me explain that, because I know some people are like, yeah, you just lost me there. Okay, everybody knows that Tier 7 and Tier 8 brought in Affinity mods, right? They also brought in Elite gear, right? Okay, so just bear with me. The newest DLC is Amazon Fury Part 3. That DLC actually has it so that the Elite gear is in the vendors. That's right. You don't have to wait for it to drop. You don't have to do any guesswork or any trying. You can just get all the coins you need and just buy the gear straight from there. That's right, just buy it with the pieces. You need this piece, buy it. You need that elite piece, buy it. You need this elite piece, buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it. There is no more drops for elite pieces. And we all know that, well, maybe some of you should know. When it comes to elite pieces, getting a certain amount of them will grant you the affinity mods. There are affinity mods that give out auto pot, auto healing. That's right, if you get the right affinity mods, you get auto pot just by being in the group now. Because you have the mod, or because the troller in the group has the mod. So it's not that different. So it's nothing completely new to the game. Auto pot's nothing new. The affinity mods have it. Also, auto healing is nothing new. The affinity mods also have that. So get the right pieces, and the healer now gives out healing just for being in the group. So it's not that much of a stretch. The only true difference is this. You have to get up to tier 8 before you can actually guarantee yourself getting it. Maybe if you're that good, or maybe if you're that lucky, you can do it at tier 7. You know, if you get the right drops. But tier 8, you can just buy them straight out the vendor. But you have to get up at least to tier 7. With this live update, fresh out the box, level 10, you'll be giving out pot. Automatically. So yeah, it is a little bit of a stretch. Also, if you think about it, I don't know. Pot is a great thing. It also does tell you kind of, is this troll a good troll, a bad troll, mediocre troll? Is he really good? Is he amazing? Is he OP? But there's more to it. Just giving around auto pot's not going to keep the group alive. I mean, think about it. When's the last time a troller did nothing but just give out auto pot and you actually made it through content? Don't get me wrong, pot does do a lot of wonders, but for the most part, people are going to run through their power so fast that auto pot's not going to be enough. You're going to need to do more. So it takes more than just being able to draw out a pot. However, drawing out pot is part of a troller's identity. Being able to do everything plus keep up your ticks. That's what separates one troller from the next. Now you're taking out one of the things that a troller must do, making it a little bit more simplified. AKA dumbing it down a little bit, but then again we also have affinity mods for that. So I guess my question is this. I don't see them actually taking out the auto pot anytime soon. I don't see them taking it out. What I want to know is, what are you going to do about the affinity mods then? Because you pretty much just made the affinity mod useless. Don't get me wrong, not all of the affinity mods are useless, but some of them, particularly the affinity mod that gives out auto pot, aka auto power over time, will now be useless. If it's already granted, then isn't that a useless thing to have in your tray? So what are you going to do to replace that one? Also, if you do the same thing to healer or tank, what are you going to do to replace the auto healing for a healer? Just some questions to put up there. Also, on the stream before we actually had tests of the actual stats revamp on test servers, you guys said that controllers are going to get back to what they actually should be doing. Controlling the battlefield. So right now, how it is with a controller, while the name is controller, which means you should be controlling stuff, but the main focus is actually power. Power back to them, power to the whole group. What are you guys going to do to lessen that? If you want to make controlling all about controlling the battlefield, what are you guys going to do? I really want to see what you guys are going to do with your crowd controls and what you guys are going to do with your debuffs. As you guys said actually on there, that you guys are going to look heavily into debuffs. So Like, you guys didn't really do anything this time, but you guys are going to keep an eye on them, right? So, what are you guys going to do with the debuffs? That's what I want to see. And what... I guess I'm saying, if all you're really going to do is just strafing the CCs we have now, or strafing the debuffs, that's okay too, but I think you guys should start doing a little bit more than what you're actually doing. If you want a controller to truly control the battlefield, I think you should offer them a few more mechanics. Now, there are some mechanics that are currently in-game right now doing stuff to players. Shouldn't those mechanics be maybe offered to the controller a little bit, if you want to make them, you know, about controlling the battlefield? For instance, there's a mechanic in Unholy Matrimony that at a certain point, all power is taken away from a random player. Now, I don't mean like your power bar. I mean like your loadout bar. Your loadout bar just empties out. It's gone. You can't hit any powers. Wouldn't it be sweet if a controller... I'm not saying that you should be able to take their whole attack menu from an enemy, but wouldn't it be great if they could take at least one move out randomly, or maybe they use a supercharge and it gets rid of an enemy's whole attack menu just for a certain amount of time, you know? Something like that. Something that they can actually truly control battlefield. So, I mean, those are ideas what I mean. What are you guys actually going to bring to controlling so that they can actually get back to their ideal of controlling the battlefield? Just something like that, you know. There's tons of mechanics in games that I think could be handed over to controllers just to make it so that it's more control-orientated instead of being power-orientated. But I guess that's up to test. So we'll see how they do with these changes and things like that. Overall, about this whole first part, I'm not too surprised about anything. It's pretty much the same as live when I think about it. It's just being able to do that at level 10 as opposed to being, you know, max CR all the way at level 8 trying to get your Affinity mods on your elite gear. You know, so with the whole auto power over time, I'm not too surprised, but it's just a little bit like, I don't know if I like that being granted at level 10. At the same time, it's like, if the controller doesn't do anything else but give out a pot move that's now automatic, he wasn't going to save the group. You know, giving out pot you're not going to do anything. But that's all you do. You got to do a lot more. You got to know when to catch your instance, when to catch your debuffs, when to catch your buffs, all that stuff. When to crowd control, when not to. It takes a lot more. However, yeah, that's also part of the identity of a troll, is giving out pot, so I don't know, we're just kind of a little bit iffy on that, but I guess we're just gonna have to see how that works out. Talk to more people and see how that's working out for them. I know a lot of people are just like, yeah, I don't want that to change, and I'm kind of the same way, but I guess we'll just see how that works out. As far as the other things I'm seeing on tests right now, a lot of people are just testing the game out the wrong way. Like, I don't know if they're reading the descriptions of the powers that they're having in their loadout bar, or if they're going on tests to see what has changed as far as the game, but I see a lot of people using the wrong moves and then saying, what's up with this? It's not working out right. This needs to be buffed or debuffed, or this is just doesn't work. This is useless. Like, for instance, and I'm just pointing out one thing. I see a lot of people, like, for instance, with Ice. As far as like Ice DBS, I see people, you know, putting a lot of moves in their loadout bar to say, hey man, I use Wintry Tempest, and then I use Ice Bash, and then I'm out of power. The Power Regen just doesn't work, and I don't have any power to hit my next move. I don't want to have to use a weapon. When I envision my character, I'm only playing from the tray, which means I'm only using my loadout bar, no weapon attacks whatsoever. Having to use a weapon to get back power, it doesn't fit me. It doesn't suit me. I thought we're going to have the ability to play from the tray. I clearly cannot. You're going to have to increase this Power Regen some more, man. This is not working out. Like, at the same time, it's like, you realize what you just did with your loadout, right? Like, right? Really? Ice Bash doesn't increase your power damage, so why is it in your loadout? Ice Bash doesn't do anything for you but increases the damage of your weapon. Yeah, the damage of your weapon. Unless you just want the look on your character of having that stuff around your arms, I guess. I don't know. it doesn't increase your powers whatsoever. So if you're only playing from the tray, only using powers, why would you put a move in there that increases something that you're not going to use? I don't see the sense around it. No wonder you're using power. You got something in your loadout bar that you're not even going to use. I like I said, people, you gotta look at the tooltips on all the powers that you have in your loadout bar, and if need be, go back to the forums and read over the changes, just so you guys get yourself more familiarized with stuff. Now, I'm not saying that if he would have read that, maybe he would have the right amount of power back he needs, but from what I'm seeing, having a move in there that just takes power and does no benefit to your loadout whatsoever is also a mistake. Anyway, let's get on to the next part. Stats Revamp Ice 1.1. The changes from 1.0 to 1.1 are as follows. Cold Snap has been removed. Shadow Restraints now grants a shield. Doesn't seem that bad to me, actually. Doesn't seem that bad to me. Now, I know a lot of people are like, you just removed the power from the game. What do you mean doesn't seem that bad? Well, keep in mind that as far as just test servers concerned, Cold Snap has been nothing else but a power... Well, how can I say it? On test server, Cold Snap is nothing but a self-power heal. That's it. As far as the revamps are concerned, it has been cut back on its abilities heavily. When Stats Revamp first hit test server, Cold Snap did nothing but give pot to the player. That was it. It was the self-power heal. It had nothing else. Now on live, Cold Snap does a lot more. However, all those abilities of Cold Snap were taken away, and now it's just your self-power heal on test. Now with the whole thing about having pot automatically given to trolls and everybody who's in the group with the troll, that move was removed. So in a way, they removed a useless power. So, yeah, I can't really say too much bad about that. So yeah, it is a loss because they could just put it right back to what's on live, but whatever. Shadow Restraints, however, that is good news to me. Alright, look at it this way. Winter Ward, Reflection, and Shadow Restraints are all shields now. They're all shields. And we have the Ice Armor. It's pretty much just like live, if you think about it. Alright, on live, we have 4 shields. 4 shields, no Ice Armor. Remember, on live, well, you got the Ice Armor, but it doesn't do anything for you. It's just looks. That's it. That's all it is. It's just looks. It's just looks. It doesn't do anything. Doesn't increase your damage. Doesn't increase your defense. Doesn't do anything for you. It's just looks. That's on live. On test, we have 3 shields and the Ice Armor. Ice Armor gives you defense. It actually does something. It actually has a function. It is more than just a look. So if you think about it, it's 4-4. You know, live has 4 shields, and test has 3 shields and the Ice Armor. So it's pretty much 4-4. Which I'm pretty happy with, actually. I can say I'm pretty happy with the tank side of stuff. Although there are some things I'm kind of iffy about. The pulls. As you guys know, all the durations for moves have been increased from 3 seconds to 6 seconds. Now by that I mean effectiveness, how long something works, or how long something has an effect, has been increased from 3 seconds to 6 seconds. Alright, but let's go into something that they don't talk about, cooldowns. That's actually something very important. They don't talk about it ever. It's never mentioned. The only time it's ever mentioned is when it's mentioned by someone who's on the test forums, or in a video on YouTube, or when you actually get out there and talk to people. That's the only time they actually mention stuff. Like, you don't ever just look in the notes and see anything like that. It's not mentioned. So let's talk about the cooldowns. Okay, so Inescapable Storm, which is the pool for ice for a tank, has been decreased, thank God. However, it's 3 seconds. it has a cooldown of 3 seconds, which seems pretty fast, but 3 seconds is a lot of time if you think about it. Especially when you have ads on both sides of the room and you can only pull one set, then you have to wait 3 whole seconds to pull the other set. That's time tucking away that now your group has to somehow survive until you can pull those ads off them. You know, it's kind of, I mean, think about it. 3 seconds. That's a bit of time before you can use a different pull. Now, you could say they're trying to, you know, add the whole 2-2-2-2 system back to the game, which I'm happy about, and I can't wait to see that implemented. But it depends on the instance. If you think about it, like, for instance, Dawn of the Dead. When one tank's supposed to take the essence and the other tank takes everything else, that wouldn't really work out as well. When you have ads that come in on both sides of the room and you pull one group of ads and now you have to wait 3 whole seconds before you can pull another set, and let's say those ads are about to run over there to the other tank who's about to have the essence, now you can't pull them off there. Now you're just kind of just, you know, just like, we'll figure out something. You know, it's kind of like, you know, I think it'll work its way out. I just think they need to just decrease it a little bit more. Like, make the pull have a 1 or 1.5 to 2 second cooldown instead of 3 seconds. Even the 1 second would be good, I think. Even a 1 second decrease would be great. So I think they need to decrease that a little bit more. They also need to decrease a little bit the shields, I think. But then again, maybe they work out that way. But I really think they need to decrease them just a little bit more. Okay, so Winter Ward, as you guys know, all these things have a duration of 6, which means they're effective for 6 seconds. But they have cooldowns. Winter Ward has a cooldown of 20 seconds. Shadow Restraints has a cooldown of 20 seconds. Reflection has a cooldown of 12 seconds. So yeah, you gotta, you know, you can't hit all your shields at the same time. That would be just insane. You gotta kind of want to, like, you know, rotate your shields a little bit. If need be, when, you know, shit's about to hit the fan, sure, hit him. But, I mean, you kind of want to rotate your shields, you know. Also, another thing about the tanking with tanking in general, anybody who knows that since the dawn of this game, there's been a defense cap that no one can go over. That's even on live. Nobody can go over it. The defense cap has been removed from the game as far as test servers concerned. But yes, they have removed the defense cap. That means whatever your defense goes up to, it just goes up there now. Never been so happy to hear that in my life. This gives a lot more survivability to powers, especially Ice and Earth, where all we have is our defense. We can't heal ourselves at all. So that's simply amazing to me. That is everything. Whew. Okay, so let's talk about some more stuff. Ice Elemental has been fixed with bugs that were in the previous one. Also, on top of that, some moves are hitting better than others, which I thought is a little bit of inconsistency, but maybe that's intended. I don't know. Okay, so moves like Ice Boulder are doing more damage than moves like Snowball. Now, for instance, Ice Boulder is a move where you pretty much form a boulder of ice above you and draw it at somebody, but that's going to be called weaponization. So that's probably why. Especially with your skill points, you can increase the damage of it. So that's probably why, which isn't a bad thing. I think that's a good thing. Then there's Snowball, which has a PI. You know, especially if you add one to it. So it should probably, I want to say probably be doing more damage, but at the same time, weaponization, that's a stat you can put stuff into that stat. So yeah, I could see that doing more damage, but fresh off the bat, I don't think so. Fresh off the bat, I think you need to put at least a pointer, a skill pointer or 2 before it starts doing more damage, or maybe it just increases that much more damage. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe that's intended, but I'm just pointing out stuff I see. Now, one problem I see is I see a lot of DPSs, and yeah, we're talking about DPS side now. Just like with the last thing, a little bit of inconsistency with testers. Though this is with testers. This is the problem with testers. I don't think a lot of testers are reading the forums or looking at the tooltips for the moves that are in their loadout. Because I see a lot of people, I don't even know why they're doing this. I kind of wonder if do they read the tooltips? Do they read what it says? A lot of people are wondering why they're running out of power so quickly and they only want to use their tray, aka play from the tray, only use their loadouts, but they're forced to use their weapon to get back power. For the most part, you should be able to keep some power to yourself, but I see a lot of people running through their power so quickly because they keep using moves they should not be using. Now, we can pretty much use whatever move we want to, but it should make sense a little bit. Now, by making sense, I mean, why use a move that does nothing, period? Nothing, period. What I mean is this. There are people who are using the weapon buffs to increase their power damage. It's not possible. It's not possible. A weapon buff increases your weapon damage. That's it. It does not increase your power damage. So using Ice Bash in your loadout is just taking away your power. You're just wasting your power on a move that does nothing for you. It doesn't do anything for you. Especially if you're the type of person who wants to only lose their loadout bar and no weapons at all. Ice Bash will not increase the damage of your power. So why are you using it? It even says Ice Bash now only buffs weapon damage. So why would you use it in your ability tray if you're not going to use your weapon? So yeah, I see that a lot. So I'm pointing that out. That goes for all the powers. All the buffs are now just weapon buffs. Alright? There's no such thing as a power buff anymore. Just weapon buffs. So a lot of inconsistencies with these loadouts, which I don't understand, I don't get. It doesn't make sense why people are complaining about running out of power if you're using a move that does nothing but waste your power. So yeah, Ice Bash has a 6-second duration, but it has a heavy power cost. I'm okay with that because it only increases weapon damage, so who cares if it has a heavy power cost? Some people are saying that they use Wintry Tempest and then Ice Bash and then they have very, very little power left. Oh, you're the one who wanted to use a move that only increases weapon damage. Now you're left with just weapon attacks. So yeah, go ahead, have at it. It all depends on how you make your loadout. And a lot of people seem to be actually being able to keep power continuously through their rotations as they go into stuff. And some people cannot. They simply have to go to weapon attacks. It all depends on how you do your loadout. Now, for the people that are consistently doing just constant weapon moves non-stop, they have said that when they look at the scoreboard, they tend to do lower than people who use both powers and weapons. But at the same time, I think that's, I think that's to be expected a little bit. I think that's to be expected. Especially when you have a weapon buffer. You know what I'm saying? There are no more buffs or powers. There's only weapon buffs. So I think that's to be expected a little bit. Now keep in mind, this is also not in-game content, so maybe that will change slightly depending on how you put your stuff up. So right now at the beginning game, I can't even say in-game. All I can say is that at the beginning game, this is just how it is. And I don't have a problem with that. It sounds good for Ice so far. Stats Revamp, Mental 1.1. There have been a lot of changes to Mental from 1.0 to 1.1, but they only mention the major ones. They don't mention all the stuff that you really actually care about, such as cooldowns and things like that. Not mentioned here, but we'll go over those. Anyway, Thought Bubble has been changed from an encase to a pull, and will be renamed Telekinetic Pull. Psychic Resonance has been replaced with Psychic Prison. A damage over time AoE, aka area of effect. That stuns when in controller role. Pyrokinesis now deals damage over time. Mass Terror now deals damage over time. The levels at which powers are unlocked has been adjusted. Various power interactions adjustments have been made, and control role debuff adjustments such as some debuffs have been shifted to other abilities. That's kind of a lot, but not really. Oh, and now we have power over time on automatic. If a controller is in your group, you get pot, aka power over time, just because a controller is in your group. Now, let me better explain that. I want to talk about this now because this might confuse a lot of people, so I just want to put it out there. All powers now have a power regen. The more you use your powers, the more you get power back. Same thing happens when you use your weapon to gain back power, right? But that's different from a controller, alright? So, no matter what power you are, you have power regen. That power regen is based on your power stat. The higher your power stat is, the more power you get back. However, when it comes to a controller that is in control role, it's different. It is different. Why they still get that power back, the pot that goes out to their group, is not based on the power stat. The power that they give out to everyone else in their group, that is based on the vitalization stat. And the higher that is, the more of a pot goes out to the group. Now keep in mind that this is an auto pot, though. So regardless of how much vitalization you have, everybody will get pot. However, if your vite is low, then expect a low pot. Now, if you have two controllers in your group, whoever has the higher vite automatically gives out the pot and the other controller does not. That's just the way it is. Now, there are a few bugs with this, such as, let's say you have two controllers show up and then one switches to DPS mode. That controller's buff is still going around the room, even though he switched to DPS mode. They haven't fixed that yet. Or let's say the other controller steps up and now he wants to put in his buff. But now you say he leaves group and another controller shows up, or not even that. Let me start over. Let me make this a little bit more easier. Okay, you got two controllers in the group. One switches to DPS, the other one does the same. Then somebody else who is a DPS now switches to controller, and their vitalization is way higher than both of those other controllers. Unfortunately, the other person's vitalization is still going throughout the room, so it's not going to change. Something like that. Those little inconsistencies need to be fixed. But I'm sure they're working on it, so I don't really care that much. It's something they're going to work at. Another thing is, a lot of people are just like up in arms over the whole auto pot. I'm not. I don't troll. But I do understand that it's an identity of a controller. I understand that completely. At the same time, we're kind of just drawing that through the window anyway on live server, if you think about it. With Elite Gear being purchasable, which means you can go to a vendor and buy it, and then get the Affinity mods to put into that Elite Gear, which also gives you auto pot. We're just doing the same thing. It's much later in the game, but we're still doing just the same thing. I don't know. It does feel dumbed down, but I guess I'll get over that when I think about the fact that Affinity Mods already has it. Alright, so I've been talking to controllers, both that have been on tests, and I've also been reading the forums, waiting for people who've actually test versus people who are just giving their opinion but haven't done anything. And it seems that everyone's saying the same exact thing right now about controlling. So as far as like the cooldowns and the effects of moves, it seems that when it comes to the duration of stun effects or stun control effects, whether you had, for instance, this is actually going to be like a word for word via the forums, whether you have 92 dominance or 133 dominance, the duration of the stun control effects were not increased on test server. Now, under the game description, it says that dominance in the stance, it says that dominance is supposed to increase the length of time or the duration of control effects. But that's not the case on test server. Or maybe that's just a bug. It seems to be that a little bit of what's on live, just a little bit slightly. It seems to be mostly that the higher your dominance is, the more likely your stuns will actually just work. Doesn't seem to increase anything. It just seems that if your dominance is high, it works. If it's not, it doesn't. Depending on what you're going into. You guys remember how we had those recommended dominance levels? That seems to be the case, but no one's up that high and no one's really rating like they're supposed to. So, no one's really testing stuff as far as to check that out. But that seems to be the case. Although there are some good things about this, actually. I do have some good news. I do got some good news. I know it seems bad, but I do got some good news. The controlling aspect. It seems they're really trying to get controlling down to a science, but they're also, with the cooldowns and the durations, they're kind of like messing it up. But at least they're trying to do something with it, so that's a step in a direction, not necessarily the right direction, but it's a step. That being said, I think they're going to change some stuff via the next update. Alright, anyway, let's get on to that. Mass Terror and Psychic Prison. Oh my god, Psychic Prison sounds amazing from what I'm reading, and also from people telling me that is just done amazingly. There's Mass Terror, which is 8 targets, and there's Psychic Prison, which is also 8 targets. And Psychic Prison is an area of effect controlling power. It stuns and it pulses like a 360 degrees around you from what I'm hearing. And there's a maximum of 8 people. Well, 8 of the closest targets to you. And I think that sounds amazing. I kind of would like it better if... It doesn't have to be. I mean, every power doesn't have to be the same. But there are some powers that let you target stuff away, and some that let you target things around you. So I think it should probably stay like it is, just to be different from other powers. Even if only in that regard, such as melee range or long distance. However, I would like to see it that even though it targets 8 people, if somebody walks into it, it increases in, increases in duration. I would love to see that. That's one thing that we need to see about. Okay, so besides that, there's Terra Tendrils, there's Psychic Shot, and Pyrokinesis, which have a stun of briefly 1 second. I am not sure what that's supposed to do. And that seems to be regardless of what your dominance is, whether it's high or low. 1 second stun. What's that supposed to do? Anyway, there's also Cryokinesis, which roots 2 targets for 6 seconds. That also seems to be regardless of dominance too. Oh, at least that's 6 seconds. And 2 people, okay, fine, I'll take it. 2 people's better than 1. And it's better than 1 second, so I'll take that. Then there's Invisibility's Ambush Stun. It stuns for 8 seconds. 8 seconds is a lot better than 6, so most things are only doing 6. Ambushes, or Invisibility's Ambush, is doing 8 seconds. However, there is a downside to it. It's almost like a transformation, almost. But what it does is, it takes you out of control form roll while it does that stun for 8 seconds. Also, on top of that, the innate or power over time is turned off during this time. So if you're the only controller, or if you're one of the controllers, or you're the controller that is giving the pot out right now, yeah, buy pot while you're using that. Okay, so what else? There is the Horrific Visage, which stuns briefly, but it's a transformation effect. And It's not based on dominance at all. Not based on dominance at all. But I hear it's OP as hell, so a lot of people are using it. Now there's the telekinesis pull, which is the same as mass terror from what I'm hearing. Exact same. Now, with that being said, there is one move that stacks with your dominance. The higher your dominance is, it seems to actually do better. Okay, so mass levitation. Mass levitation is a move that stuns for 6 seconds. So when somebody had, this is straight from the test forums, somebody on that test confirmed it for me too. Somebody that has, like, let's say just like 100 dominance, it's done for 6 seconds, but someone that had 1,000 dominance, it's done for 8. So that was 2 more seconds. So it seems there's a rule of 500 dominance equals an added second. So each 500 you added another second. So with that 1,000, it added 2 seconds to it, which is pretty good. But overall, it seems like, yeah, controllers have kind of taken a hit a little bit as far as getting their control forms underway. I'm kind of wondering why this was. It seems to be more of a forcing you to have 2 controllers to do stuff, but at the same time, it's like, if there's a certain move you want to use and it only hits 1 target or only has a duration of 1, then even with 2 controllers, you're not going to be using that move because it kind of seems useless. Especially when you take in mind the cooldown on certain things. It just seems kind of useless to me. Alright, so once again, we pretty much have about 4 moves that stun for only 6 seconds and 3 moves that stun for only 1. I'm trying to see what's the point of the 1 second. I don't know. I really want to see what the bigger picture is that the devs are creating before I do any type of judgment on control roll. But it seems that even though this sounds bad, this is a hell of an upgrade from a Stats Revamp 1.0. So 1.1, I'm loving it, except for there are certain things that they haven't addressed yet or changed. Even though some things have gotten their cooldowns reduced, it's still not to the point where it's, well, some moves are still not usable. And some moves that were completely unusable are now just more of a, maybe I'll use it, due to the cooldowns. But I kind of want to see more of what they're going in the direction as far as crowd controlling and also debuffs. What are they doing with those before I make any decisions on that? So I guess I'll end it here as far as the mental. Let's move on to the very last thing. Stats Revamp Electricity 1.1. These are the changes from 1.0 to 1.1. These are only the major changes as listed on the screen as you see right now. Electrocharge has been replaced with Repulse. Yep, that's about it. That is about it as far as the update of major changes that they said. Now, they've done a lot more, but once again, they only tell you about the major changes. Although I think cooldown changes and power increases are something that we need to know about too, but I guess they leave that for the testers on the forums to do. So here are some of the things that I've noticed and also talked to some people and also read on the forums. Cooldowns for a lot of the moves have been changed and some moves have been made stronger, but not much has changed too much. It's still kind of an unstable power in a way. Wired, Electrogenesis, and Electrocution all have 12-second cooldowns now. All have 12-second cooldowns. Electrocution and Egen do damage, and they tick for 12 ticks over 12 seconds. With Egen being a smaller tick of damage. Now, Wired only lasts for 6 seconds, but it does have a cooldown of 12 seconds. So that's something to keep in mind too. Okay, so Biocapacitor has a cooldown of 18 seconds. Flux has an 18-second cooldown, but only lasts for 6 seconds. Tesla Ball does 3 ticks of damage, but it also has a 6-second cooldown. Now, Electrostatic Bomb does 3 ticks of damage. It has a 12-second cooldown. Invigorate is a 50% supercharge. So yeah, when I think of it in that way, yeah, the changes are a lot better than what was in 1.0. Alright, people are saying that when I use Circuit Breaker, which is a supercharge, they noticed a small increase in damage. However, they didn't notice any increase in the number of crits. At the moment, Megavolt is more useful, and even choosing Vacuum Bubble, which is a 25 supercharge, is more beneficial, people are saying. And the transition from DPS to healer electricity is a little bit of a situation. Mostly because a lot of people are still using the weapon buff in their loadouts, even though they're trying to play from the tray. And by play from the tray, I mean just use their powers. But they're using moves that won't increase their damage with powers at all. So they're losing power, and it's kind of like, yeah, of course. If you're using a buff, there's no more buffs for powers, period. There are no buffs whatsoever. There's a buff for your weapon, and that's it. So take out that buff and you should be good to go as far as playing from the tray. But as reported, people that play from the tray tend to keep their power, but they also tend to do a lot weaker in damage as far as somebody who uses powers and weapons combined. But I guess if you think of it, that makes more sense though. Anyway, as far as what I'm reading on as far as powers, there's really nothing bad to report, except for the fact that the cooldowns seem to be a little bit unreasonable healer side. DPS side, doable. Not perfect, but doable. It seems that the healer side still needs a little bit of touching up. A lot of moves that should be interacting with others have such cooldowns that interactions for the most part are just not possible anymore. And as far as electricity is known for its burst damage, that seems to be a thing of the past now. So I kind of wonder how this is going to play out. I would like to talk more about it, but I think they're going to be making adjustments to the power, so I don't really want to say too much. It's just that it seems like paced healing. I guess, yeah, it just seems like paced healing to me. Like we're going a little bit slower down. Well, I think I talked about most stuff anyway, so I think we're good on that. Overall, what I think about this update is it's a great improvement compared to 1.0, so I'm really happy about that. It's a amazing improvement over 1.0. 1.0 was so restrictive. It really it was horrible. It was so restrictive. However, as far as getting that perfect sense, no, it's not there yet. It's not there yet. The only thing that seems to be pretty much dead on is tanking. Tanking is amazing, and trolling and electricity are a little bit lacking in regards. Now, I know some people are going to be more happy with the control side because of the whole not having to do a pot anymore, but then at the same time, some people aren't going to be happy with it because they want to do pot, they want skill to come into play. I think skill is still going to come into play because let's face it, if all you're doing is destroying pot, you're not really helping the group at all. If that's all you're doing, I mean, let's think about it. Pot's not going to save anything. Pot's not going to keep everybody's power bars full. So it's going to take a lot more than pot. However, that's part of the job of a controller. Taking away part of a job, making it easier for people, doesn't necessarily mean that that person's like OP now, because you're not doing your full job. It's going to be hard to tell the okay trollers from the really good or amazing trollers. So I guess we're going to have to see how that works out. If they're taking away that, I want to see what they add to controllers as far as controlling effects or debuffs. Maybe they can add something new to the game that wasn't there before, which is what I want to see. As far as healing, I want to see how they're going to, and this goes from the other powers too, I want to see how they're going to differential one power set from the next. That's really what I want to see. Because once again, we're making assumptions that if you guys make these changes to these powers, that the same changes are going to go to the next power, the next power, the next power. Like, for instance, this is how tanking's done now with ice. Are we expecting the same thing to happen to rage, to atomic, to earth, you know? And this is how you're doing it with mental. Are we expecting the same thing to happen with gadgets, to quantum, to munitions, you know? Also with electricity. Do we expect the same thing with celestial, with nature, with sorcery? Like, I want to say no. But then again, I don't know. I don't want to make any assumptions. All I can say is these are the changes so far. And I'm just going to have to wait until the next update. Now, the next update is not going to be this month at all. We're done testing for right now. We're going to pick back up in January. I'm not sure when in January. Probably the second week. Who knows? But we're going to pick back up in January. How to test these changes on the test server. Alright, well, I gotta put it this way. I could tell you everything you have to do to test out the game, but unfortunately the test servers are now down. And I waited to the very last second to put this video out, which I apologize for. I just wanted to make sure that I got all the information I possibly could. Not just based on the changes that the devs tell us on, but based on all the changes to moves. I wanted to make sure I got everything I possibly could. And it took me a while to gather everything, mostly because I was also trying to do seasonal at the same time. Like, I farm seasonal away some leagues, farm survival mode, so yeah. It took a little bit of my time away. I actually forgot about this video. Oh man, yeah, so I apologize for that. So this video is late getting put up. I apologize. But all you have to do is, once the test servers are back up, and they won't be back up until next month. It's now, you know, December. So January, we should see the test servers back up. But once they're up, just download and log into the test server. There'll be links on the forum. If you want to, just go to the testing feedback area. Then click on /revamp. At the very bottom, we'll have testing instructions, as you see right here on the screen. Download and log into test server. Once logged in, you'll find your revamped characters. Now, another thing, what they said about test server was, well, when they come back up, is that we should expect to see the next set of powers on there. So I want to see if they're going to fix the bugs currently with this power set, or if they're just going to jump to the next power. So that's something I want to see. I think there's a lot of things they need to fix, and I do think they're going to make changes to the powers. I truly do believe that. I don't know if they're going to let us test out those changes. That's the only thing. I have 100% faith that they're going to change some of the things based on our suggestions. I have no idea whether they're going to allow us to test it out, though. We made changes, and now they're set in stone. I don't know. It just seems that way. However, yeah, I can't really give you guys any, like, true instructions via audio, because you can't test it out right now. All I can say is that, as you guys can see, this is something that's going to change the game immensely, and as such, I'd rather you guys, if you're able to, if it's possible for you, please test out this game and see if it works. Not so much seeing if you hate this or hate that or hate this, because let's just face it, nothing's going to be the same as live. So if you're basing it on something that you can do on live, it's already a fail. It's not going to be live. They're changing what live is. That's what change is. It's not going to be the same. It's just not going to be the same. That's what change is. So I just want to see now on test, do these moves make sense? Are these moves okay? And a sense of not being able to solo anything anymore. Having to have 2 healers, having to have 2 controllers, having to have 2 tanks. Do these changes make sense to the power sets in that sense? I want people to test that out and check it out for themselves. Anyway, guys, once again, it's so important. Like, I'd rather you guys not even watch the video. I'd rather you guys just go straight to the forum, read it yourself, and comment there, give devs your suggestions, and also test this game out. This is important. This could make or break the game as we know it. Just watching this video, guys. This is DrkBLADExx at Dark Enforcers, aka Black Hawk Division Leader for DCUO. Dark Enforcers, Darkness Rises. And I know it's a long video, I apologize, but thanks for watching.